Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me once again for another Fuchsia Labmic book talk on the expanded universe of Star Wars. So excited to be with you here again, and we are going to get right into this book talk, so let's go. We are talking about Heir to the Empire on this book talk. Heir to the Empire is one of the very first expanded universe books. It's, to my knowledge, the first post-Jedi book that was written. It was published in May of 1991. Couldn't pin down an exact date. It's happened to me for like 2 books where I can't pin down an exact date. It was written by the incomparable Timothy Zahn, who wrote this as the first book in what he called a 3-book cycle. This is book 1 of the Thrawn 3-book cycle. That is how it was originally referred to. It actually says that. I have the first edition paperbacks of it. I know there was hardcovers before that, but I have the first edition paperbacks of these, and they all say book 1 of a 3-book cycle. Let's put you in the timeline, give you an idea of where we are. We're at 9 years after the Battle of Yavin, 9 ABY. That puts us 5 years already after Return of the Jedi, after the death of the Emperor, after the death of Darth Vader, after the destruction of the second Death Star. We are now 5 years out from all of those things. So when we talk about this, we're talking about moving forward. We're talking about the New Republic being established. We'll see that. It's been now 2.5 years since the New Republic has really established itself on Coruscant. The New Republic kind of vaguely existed before that, but you're nothing until you've actually gotten onto Coruscant, and then you're the major government, right? We see the New Republic logo. This is the New Republic logo that was true to the time. So I stick with that. I try and be true to the material as often as I can. Even in the slideshows, I do what I can to be true to the material. So we are now 2.5 years that the New Republic has established itself as the government on Coruscant, and therefore the major government of the galaxy. That is, if you are the government on Coruscant, you are the government for the majority of the galaxy. Let's talk about the ages of our heroes. Luke and Leia, the Skywalker twins, are getting older. They're not so much kids anymore, even though it looks like they are in the slideshow. They are now 28 years old. Luke and Leia are 28. How did Luke and Leia become 28 already? Luke and Leia Skywalker, 28 years old. Okay, so it's Leia Organa. Actually, in this one, it's Leia Organa Solo. Not much of a spoiler there. You find that out right away. Han Solo is 38 years old. He's closing in on 40 already. Remember, Vader was 40 approximately when episode 4 started. Wedge Antilles, we're keeping an eye on him again. He's not going to be a huge part of this storyline, but we're keeping an eye on him. He's 30 years old already. He's a couple years older than the Skywalker twins. Wedge Antilles, 30 years old. In these books as we move along. And then we're going to talk about some new characters. The first one being Captain Gilad Pellaeon. Captain Pellaeon is a wonderful character, and he's going to be an important character for a long time in these books. Do not underestimate him. Pay close attention when you're reading about Gilad Pellaeon. He is already 60 years old. Another new face for us is Talon-Karrde. And Talon-Karrde, I couldn't pin down an exact age, an exact date of birth, but he's somewhere around 40, little bit older than Han, sort of in the Lando age range, something like that. Talon-Karrde, somewhere around 40 years old. Another new character, maybe the most famous, well, I don't know. These two characters, Mara Jade. Mara Jade is 26. She's a couple of years younger than the Skywalker twins, than Luke and Leia. So Mara Jade is 26 years old, and this is where you first meet Mara Jade. So she will become an important character. Another important character, and also maybe the most famous character to come out of these books, Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I could not pin down an age for him. The closest I could get is that he's somewhere between 50 and 60 years old. They just never tell you. Okay? They just never tell you. Let's talk about some major places that we have to keep in mind, know to watch out for in this book. Some places that are becoming more popular again. Wayland is becoming an important planet again. And Mount Tantus. Wayland and Mount Tantus have come up again in the Disney fan fiction. That's how I refer to the Disney stuff. It lets you enjoy what you want from it without having to be committed to it as the end-all be-all. So, the Disney fan fiction. Niklon, with that weird spelling, but that's how it's spelled, Niklon, and Nomad City. Nomad City is such an incredibly cool concept. This book introduces some cool concepts, and Nomad City on the planet Niklon is one of those really cool concepts. There's a little tease of Nomad City, very appropriately named, sort of obviously named, at least a little bit. My one critique of Timothy Zahn is that sometimes the way he names things is a little obvious. We're going to visit the planet Merkur. You want to keep the name Merkur in mind. Not just now either. Merkur is going to become an important part of this universe as we go along. Merkur is going to be significant in years to come again. The Sluis Van shipyards are going to be important, have been important. I mean, they haven't been mentioned, but the Sluis Van shipyards have always been important. You're going to find that out in this book. Sluis Van and the Sluis Van shipyards have been an important part of Star Wars, even though they've never been mentioned before this book. Timothy Zahn's really good at that. And then Kashyyyk, the real Kashyyyk, the one up in the trees, the one where the entire society that lives on Kashyyyk lives up in near the canopy. I'm not going to say any more about that. I could go on forever about that. Let's talk about major characters and relationships instead. Captain Pellaeon and Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is a relationship that you can't miss, but it's an important relationship. It's a relationship that has to be mentioned, the relationship between Grand Admiral Thrawn and Captain Pellaeon. Another important relationship involving Grand Admiral Thrawn is his relationship to Rook. My big compliment to Dave Filoni is that he brought Rook to us even in the Disney fan fiction, and I am so grateful for that. Another one, character that is introduced in this book and his relationship with another character that we know, Borsk Phalia and Admiral Akbar. And Borsk Phalia is another character that is going to follow us through multiple books. Really gives you a new look at a species that had already been mentioned. Leia and her relationship with another new character, Winter. Winter is... How do I even describe Winter without spoiling things? I don't think I can. This is a relationship that you probably won't miss. It's a relationship that's fairly obvious, but Leia and Winter is a relationship that's important. Another relationship that's hard to miss is the relationship between Talon Card and Mara Jade. Mara Jade, of course, one of the two most popular characters to come out of this book series, even though, well, I don't know, Mara Jade's a pretty important character to come out of this. Anyways. And then Jorus C'baoth, or Joruus C'baoth, I'll give you both pronunciations there. That is not a spelling mistake in the slideshow there. Joruus C'baoth, that's how I choose to pronounce it. I think that's the best pronunciation for it. And Grand Admiral Thrawn. Grand Admiral Thrawn, of course, one of the two most popular characters to come out of this, so popular that he was brought into the Disney fan fiction in the wonderful, wonderful series Rebels. If you have not watched Rebels, go watch it. It's not just for kids. Let's continue with the major characters and relationships in this book, Joruus C'baoth and the Solo Twins. Now, I'm teasing the Solo Twins here, but it's not much of a spoiler. You're gonna find out about them anyways. I'm teasing a little bit in the slideshow, but Luke, R2-D2, and Mara Jade. Another interesting relationship. Really, the relationship between Luke and Mara Jade is important enough all in and of itself. But I wanted to squeeze R2 in there because he doesn't get talked about enough, especially for this book, as far as I'm concerned. And then an old friendship, Han and Lando, Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, have an interesting role. Han has an interesting role in this book. Han really has evolved in this book. He will continue to evolve, but Han has an interesting relationship with Lando and their interactions in this. Chewbacca the Wookiee and Leia Organa Solo have a wonderful interaction here. Their relationship to each other as friends, as colleagues, is something that is explored more in this, expanded upon more in this book. Leia Organa Solo and her relationship with the Noghri. Now, I know these images are small, and I'm doing that on purpose because I'm trying to tease a little bit here, and I don't want to spoil too much. I don't really want you to be able to read the words. These images, these comic book looking images, by the way, come from a comic book version of this book. And then the introduction of the Ysalamiri and their relationship with the Force. This is one of the more inventive things that Timothy Zahn did in this book. And I really enjoy this. This is a cool expansion on things. And then the Vornskers and Luke Skywalker. And the Vornskers also, the Ysalamiri are important. The Vornskers are important. And the interaction between the Vornskers and Luke is an interesting interaction that you could miss if you try and read too fast, things like that. So don't miss Luke and the Vornskers. Let's talk about some major events. Let's talk about the secrets of Mount Tantus. I'm going to tell you all the secrets. Of course, I'm not going to tell you all the secrets. I don't want to spoil things. I just want to tease things. So I am teasing that Mount Tantus has secrets. And they are not the secrets that you'll be expecting if you only know the Disney fan fiction. There is an image in the slideshow right now that spoils it a tiny, tiny bit, but I think the picture is vague enough that it's kind of a those who know will know, and those who don't know will be able to discover it in the book. So there's that. A major event in and all of itself happens at the beginning of the book is Thrawn's approach and his brilliant tactics. I am not spoiling a lot. I promise you I'm not spoiling a lot for you to find out that Thrawn is a brilliant tactician. What's interesting is how he comes about it, how he approaches things, how he develops his tactics. That is the thing that you want to read and enjoy throughout all three of these books. Okay. Thrawn is such an engrossing character to read about. But so is Pellaeon. And Pellaeon's thoughts, and this is something I think people might miss if they go through again too fast. Pellaeon's thoughts on the Battle of Endor is a short but really cool part of this book. And you want to be watching out for it. You want to digest it in a way that gives it the gravitas that it deserves. And it does deserve that gravitas, I promise you. So Pellaeon and his thoughts on the Battle of Endor, something really cool to read about in this book. Let's also talk about Luke and Luke's new discoveries in an old place. And I'm really teasing it with the picture here because I don't want to give away a whole lot about this. I want you guys to be able to discover this for yourselves. Those of you who know the book, of course, know what I'm talking about, know where this picture is. But for those of you who don't, I'm so excited for you to read about it. Let's continue with our major events. Let's talk about Lando's new venture. Lando always has some new money-making venture, some new thing, some new scheme. It's never quite a scam, but it's always at least a little bit of a quick cash kind of scheme, right? It's never like, oh, I'm breaking the law to do this. But it's always like, really, Lando? You decided to do this is what you did? I thought you were kind of out of your mind going into a non-guild mining operation, but this... We also have to talk about a new part. A major event in this is discovering that there is a new part of Wookiee anatomy. This is something that Timothy Zahn created, added to Wookiees. And it is really interesting and it is brilliant because of the way that he introduced it and the things that he gave with it. Talon Card's ability to juggle things. This is going to be a really cool thing to watch out for as the book goes on. This ability for Talon Card to juggle things is a plot point that you want to make sure you're watching out for. Make sure you're watching out for Luke and Mara's adventure and why it's an adventure and how they get there and all sorts of these things quite frankly, it's a lot of fun. And I think you will really come to enjoy it. Not to say that there's not some serious parts to it. There are definitely serious and weighty parts to that adventure, but it's got its interesting quirks, and it's got some wonderful moments in it. I'll just leave it that way as you look at that. And then, speaking of brilliant tactics, Han Solo and Lando Calrissian, make sure you really appreciate their tactics in this book. It should be noted, I should note here, that Han is smarter than people give him credit for. I'll just leave it at that. That is our book talk on Heir to the Empire, the first book in the Thrawn 3-book cycle. Our next book talk will be on the second book in the Thrawn 3-book cycle, Dark Force Rising. I'm so excited to talk about this book with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you at the next book talk. Bye, everybody.